Hey guys, this is Robert with BTOD.com and BTOD TV. Today we are going to be showing you how to assemble the Flexispot EC1 Standing Desk. So as we go through this desk assembly today, I'm going to actually be going through our assembly instructions that came with the desk, the manual. So we did check the assembly instructions that are on the Flexispot website and found that some of the things are numbered a little differently. Some of the labels on the parts were slightly different. So if you're looking at the manual here, that will be the best because that's exactly what we're going to be following. Now, if you feel like we're going too fast in the video or you want to pause to maybe take a closer look at something, feel free to just hit pause on that video, hit play when you're ready to keep going. So guys, before we get into this video, make sure to follow us on our social channels. We got a ton of stuff going on there, a little bit of behind the scenes content, and it'll just keep you up to date on what kind of stuff we're going to be posting on the YouTube channel and give you some extra information that's exclusive to those social media channels. So let's get into step one. So the first step is going to be attaching the feet to the columns. So I'm going to be using 8 of the E bolts and the A hex key to attach those. And you can go ahead and tighten these all the way right away. Be careful not to over tighten or else you can actually flex the metal on this foot. Okay, I'll move on to the next leg. And it doesn't matter which foot you use, they're both the same. For step 2, we're going to be attaching our cross beam to the legs. So now this isn't exactly in the instructions, but what I'm going to show you is, I know that I have a 48-inch top, so I want my legs to be at 44 inches wide from the outside edge to this outside edge. That way it gives me 2 inches of overhang of the work surface on each side. Okay, so I'm going to start by measuring this out to 44, and I already have it at almost exactly. Okay, so I have this at 44 from the outside to the outside. Now I'm going to take my hex wrench A, and I'll show you these bolts here on the underside of the cross beam. We're going to just loosen those up. This will allow us to stretch this cross beam out to the length that we need. If you have a wider or narrower desk, you're able to adjust it to where you need it. Oop, and cap just popped off. I'm just gonna stick that right back in there. And I'll stretch this out, lay it on top. You'll see these tabs, which are gonna be used to attach to the work surface, gonna be facing inward on the desk and up. You'll see they're at the top here. Then I'll grab my F bolts. The F bolts are gonna go right down through the top here. I'm just going to get them all started before I tighten anything down. Okay, once those are in place, just going to tighten them all. All right, so you'll see these aren't tight quite yet, so I'm going to tighten those up now. Okay, now we're ready for step 3. So moving on to step 3, we're going to install our transmission rod. So how this works, ours actually was pretty loose, able to slide, but in the directions it says to first loosen this hex nut so that this will slide nice and easily. Then you're going to insert this into to leg what they call 2, which is the side that does not have the motor. Now, as you'll see, I actually spun our desk around from step 2 so that you could easily see where I'm inserting this. So last time the desk was turned, but just for the visual, I turned that around. So now we're going to install that into the side of the leg, just kind of line it up. It slides in nice and easy. And then I'm going to hold that so it doesn't come out and slide that transmission rod until it inserts right into the other side. Just push that in. Okay, have to give it a little force. Make sure it's still in on the other side. Now when you do this, you're supposed to make sure not to turn this rod at all. If you turn it too much, it could have the legs get a little off balance. Okay, so once we have that in, I'm going to grab our larger hex key. And first I'm going to just start by hand, tighten that up. And just really get that nice and tight. Again, I wouldn't over tighten, just make sure that's nice and solid. Step 4, we're going to attach our support plates to the sides of the legs. So I'm going to start with grabbing one of those here to show you. We're going to use our C bolts, which is some of the shorter ones here. Now make sure you can see that Flexispot. It's going to stick out on the side. Now again, these can go on either side. You'll see the little rubber tabs here are sticking up. Those are going to go up against your work surface. And we're going to use our hex key A again, which is the larger one. And that little bugger doesn't want to go in. We're going to try a different hole here. I'm not going to go all the way tight quite yet until I get the other side in. And then once you have them both started and in, you can just tighten those down. You want to always get this stuff nice and tight, gives the desk more stability. And I'll move on to the next side. Ooh. Again, make sure that Flexispot is sticking towards the outside. Went in nice and easy. And I'll just tighten those down now that they're both started. Okay, moving on to step 5, we're going to put our frame on our work surface. Now we are using our own work surface, so we're not going to have pre-drilled holes set up for this desk. Just going to spin this. Okay, so this way the motor is at the back of the desk. The button is going to be facing towards the front. I do have my work surface down on some foam just to keep it protected so it doesn't get any scratches while we're working on here. Now, if you remember earlier on, we lined up our crossbar so that the outside of the legs would be at 44 inches. I'm just going to make sure this is nice and centered on here. Since this desk is what's called a T-base, the legs should just go right at the center of the frame. So I can just measure front to back and side to side. Okay, now we're ready to take our screws, which are going to be our Phillips head screws, and start attaching this work surface. Now before we put this down, we're actually going to grab, there's this little adapter holder which holds the power adapter. This just slides right underneath that cross support. So make sure when you attach your adapter holder that it is on the same side as the motor. Now you don't want to have your torque setting up too high on your drill if you're using a power drill. Otherwise you might strip the top, so I have it somewhere kind of in the middle here. It could depend on your drill. I kind of go back and forth a little bit. Then we'll screw down. There's 2 screws in the middle on the cross support. So we already, if you remember earlier, we already tightened these down. Now if you did not line up your desk frame before putting it onto the work surface, you would want to tighten those before you actually screw the whole desk down. I'm going to just go back, make sure these are nice and tight. All right, to finish up step 6, we're going to just screw our button down onto the front of the desk. Now this button has to stay on the same side as the motor. There's not enough room to get it to the other side. Just get it nice and squared up. So the next step is going to be to tighten those bolts on the cross beam and then to tighten that bolt on the transmission rod. We've already done that in earlier steps. So if you did that with us in the video, you can move on to the next step, which will be attaching our baffles, which these baffles are basically protecting the hex rod from kind of where your legs are going to be on the desk. So they sit right over at the top here. And we are going to grab our hex key A and our bolts B. So these are the real small ones. This is pretty simple. Just tighten those baffles down. Stupid thing. Okay, continuing with step 7, we've already installed our baffles. Now we're going to put our adapter, power adapter on. You may have noticed earlier in the video we had our adapter over on the wrong side. So now we have it corrected. Make sure that's on the same side as the motor, otherwise the adapter will not reach the cords here. So I'm going to start by just sliding this in. Take the cord that comes out of the motor. It's easy to see, there's a large end and a small end. Just attach those into that power adapter. Then there's this little clip that kind of holds it together so those won't pull apart. Next we just take our regular power cord, attach to the other side of the motor, or excuse me, the other side of the power adapter, and we're ready to flip it over. I like that sound. So as you can see, the desk assembly is pretty straightforward. A couple little, issues here and there, but overall pretty easy to set up. Hopefully this was helpful for you. If it was, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. We got tons of more content coming out. We've already done a lot of stuff on this Flexispot desk, so check out our channel. We got weight capacity comparisons. We're gonna have a stability test coming out, whole bunch of stuff, so make sure to sub the channel. Thanks for watching. Any questions, just contact us. Thank you.